This film will give you a flavour of our work in the learning team and hopefully inspire you with some of the stories from the collections and some guidelines for creating your own exhibitions and curating your own displays. The Investigate Learning team over the last 12 months has further developed the creative arts learning offer. It's been exciting times because we've worked with the exhibitions team and the collections team. We have the advantage of having access to a huge range of works of art as well as all of the artefacts in the collection over at the museum and across the sites. Working with the exhibitions team, we've developed workshops that link to particular exhibitions. For example, we've got, coming in October, we've got the V&A exhibition, which we're really excited about, linking our offer. We'll also give schools or colleges the opportunity to exhibit their own artworks up in Gallery 7. And we've worked on with a range of schools to develop their own school courses and to support the qualifications that their students are doing. This has come out of our work as an Artsmark partner and we're further developing that as we go through into 2020. It's about tapping into that interest and using the objects, not just the creative arts, the artworks that you can see behind me or in the gallery, but exploring what we've got in the collection, using the objects across the range of our sites and the museum to really inspire and tell those stories. It's been exciting times seeing how not only the students and pupils that have come on site have responded to the exhibitions, but also this spring we had 3 artists in residence, and the idea of working with a real artist was something that many of the students said had really inspired them to take their art learning forward.
So today we've been on a school trip to the Usher Art Gallery and we've met 3 artists in residence, and right now we're doing some art based on the artists we've seen. And like one of the artists we've seen, I've been experimenting with a bunch of different colours to see how the textures work and how it looks out on the paper. And I'm doing some abstract art where every little brush stroke I do leads to another idea, and it's very inspiring.
We've been to the Usher Gallery in Lincolnshire today to see about Mike Shaw and how his sculpture work has inspired us all throughout our time here. We've been doing different ways of how we can sculpture, new ways, and try and build our confidence in what we think we should do, and if it's right or wrong we can make as many mistakes as we can. And then we've asked a couple of questions from Mike as well, and one of them was, if I can't draw, what can I do? Or I can't draw. He went, it doesn't matter, you can just, no one can't draw, it's a matter of doing it and just seeing what looks better or best.
The lady we work with was called Roth, and she specialises in archaeological art, where she is given artefacts that she has to draw to go in books before the artefacts are reburied.
During the visit to the Collection Museum, I took some observational studies of the medieval gargoyles that have on display here, and we've both come back and taken our sketches and turned them into paintings with acrylic, and I've made the colours a lot brighter and more my style compared to just boring sketches.
So we're going to have a look at some of the key things you have to think about when you're putting on an exhibition. And the first point is to think about what we're actually going to show. So what's the first process in putting on an exhibition?
So the first process is you need to establish a theme. what you actually want to display. So here at the Collection and Usher Gallery, we have a really diverse programme of exhibitions that include contemporary art, thematic exhibitions and historic exhibitions. But we always try to make our exhibitions have a general theme that is relevant to the audience and is going to be interesting as well, hopefully to as many people as possible.
Then of course we have to look at more detailed content to illustrate that theme, so we have to start looking at our own collections. Do we want to borrow things from other museums and galleries? Can we speak to artists themselves? Is it possible that we might even be able to commission a work from an artist? All the time thinking about that general theme, but lots of other things to consider around that. So will things physically fit in the space that we want to put the show in, and visually how will they look together, because you don't want things to look too jarring, and keep it together to fit the theme.
Yeah, and so that helps us develop quite a detailed plan, and that's where the fun and creativity really sort of starts to happen. You can use sort of digital versions of floor plans. You have to sort of use the measurements of the works that you are borrowing, whether you're using works from your own collections. Yeah, there's lots of different programs that you can use online, such as SketchUp, or you can take it sort of back to basics and draw out a lovely floor plan. And I've even seen galleries using 3D scale models sort of built in wood, where you use miniature versions of what you're hoping to show, and that really sort of helps you kind of create an immersive understanding of what the layout's going to look like. So at this stage you can sort of choose colours of walls, where things are going to go. You start thinking about barriers and plinths, in particular for 3D works, kind of thinking about how you're going to display sculptures and particularly vulnerable paintings and things. And that's it's an ongoing process, but it sort of starts about now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think following on from that, and probably starting to think about it at the same time, is how we actually get the items into the museum then. And that's another key aspect of planning an exhibition. We should have probably said earlier just how long in advance we need to start thinking about these things. So sometimes if you're borrowing works in, you have to ask at least 12 months, if not 2 years ahead, to really get all the detailed planning for a big exhibition under control. So when we're talking about transport and packaging, we're looking at the type of material. Is it a heavy sculpture? Will it take 2 or 3 people to lift it? What type of crating does that need? If it's a really delicate work of art, do we have to ensure that it's a fully lined crate, or can it be a more simple transit frame? Can it be something that's just soft wrapped? And that obviously saves a lot of money when you're having to put all these crates together and packaging. Who's going to transport it? Can it be something we do ourselves? Do we have to bring art handlers in? We've got to consider insurance. All of those have to be considered. So I think the important things there are budgets and timescale. So looking at those wider considerations, how does that apply to something like this exhibition?
So yeah, all of those considerations we had to pay attention to for this exhibition. So Evan Roth's Red Lines with landscapes at the Usher Gallery is a really, really good example of a very, very well planned exhibition. So we in the early stages, working very closely with the artist, we decided that the theme was going to be showing his work, his project Red Lines, which is showing all the different locations around the world where the internet comes out of the sea, alongside works from our own collection. So we had to arrange new pieces of equipment that we needed to purchase and work with Evan to program, because all of these screens that we can see have got little mini computers behind them, which are quite new technology for us. And then to find out and figure out how to put that on the wall next to some major works from our collections. We've got some Turners and some very large scale De Wints. It was a case of measuring very, very closely how that would all fit together, considering how to hang it securely on the wall using specific fixings alongside special bespoke made television mounts. That's a practicality that was we had to overcome. Thinking about also simple things such as space in the gallery and the floor plan, about where people are going to stand and look at these works. Thinking about barriers to put in front of the works and actually protect the more vulnerable pieces. But also it's not just about sort of the logistical side. Exhibition development is, you have to sort of think about the entire process, the visitor journey, how they are seeing the exhibition and how it's advertised through a marketing strategy. We often use lead images that we've taken from our collection, or something particular within the exhibition that we think really sort of sums up what we're trying to say. You've got to think about what we call interpretation as well, which is information that you provide for the visitor and the audience to sort of supplement their experience and grow their understanding of what is actually going on in the gallery. Because so many people have lots of different understandings of art, it's very subjective, so it's nice to add a little bit of factual information as well to help the viewer along. And that sort of interpretation goes hand in hand with a marketing strategy. Yeah, so it's big.
Yeah. There's lots of things to consider in terms of collections management. So we're obviously concerned about the physical works of art and that we're not putting them at any risk by displaying them. So we've already assessed them before they were selected to see if they were in a suitable condition to be displayed. So we carried out a condition check, and then when they physically get on the wall, we're then looking at the lighting levels, because with this particular hang, it's quite complicated actually, because you have the added light thrown from the digital media, but also you have a real mix of materials. So we have there's actually textile in there, and we have works on paper but also oils, and they all have different light levels, which enable us to protect them for the future. So we're not wanting to put works on paper in really bright light for a prolonged period of time. So all of those things have to be thought about, and then we're sort of touching up any marks that are made on the walls when we're actually installing them, so it all looks all tidy and neat at the end of the day, as you say, for the visitor experience. So lots of little things to consider, but then the exhibition is ready.
Yes.
Hi, I like using this this chap here when I bring people into the collection museum and we start talking about prehistoric times, because they all look at him and think, oh, he's an idiot, doesn't know what he's doing, he's very simple and very primitive. And then you show them examples of prehistoric art, and it's not just a struggle for survival. You find across Europe some fantastic bits of art, like this beautiful example from southern France, using very sort of simple instruments like bits of charcoal and bits of different coloured earth. Now, the weird thing in prehistoric art is they do the animals beautifully. All the people are stick men, so it looked like you can't draw people, but they can obviously draw people if they can draw animals. So we don't know why this is going on, but this is a choice, and it's lovely showing them the composition and the kids realising that they're not just idiots in the past, that these people have ideas and they have creativity, and it's not just this struggle for survival, and they like copying it and trying to make pieces of art. So we get them to do bits of cave art and draw these lovely bits of cave art on the walls and try and express themselves in that sort of way. After the end of Roman rule, eventually England became under the control of the Anglo-Saxons, and we've got some lovely pieces of Anglo-Saxon art here. Now, the personal art of the Anglo-Saxons is very small. It's not designed to be seen from a distance, it's private to you. So this is an example of an Anglo-Saxon brooch, and at the end you can see the eyes and mouth of what is either a snake or a dragon, and you often get these snake and dragon motifs. Now, they're not like the Roman stuff to be seen from a distance. You'd have to be inches away from someone directly in their own personal space, and they'd be thinking, thank you very much, you're quite close enough as it is. So, animals are often a motif in this Anglo-Saxon art. On helmets, you often get boars, and it's always talked about in Anglo-Saxon poetry, boar-crested helms, and we've got a lovely little boar crest there. Again, like the prehistoric boars, more sort of symbolic than naturalistic. And we've got a copy of what an Anglo-Saxon helmet might look like here, with the boars over the eyebrow ridges and the dragon or snake or serpent, whatever it's meant to be. We're not sure if it's meant to be a dragon or it's meant to just be a weird monstery thing, and it's designed to be sort of ambiguous over what it is. And this sort of art, and even the men, warriors, their swords would be very, very sort of jewelled and very sort of ornate. And this is personal art that you'd have to be very up close and personal to see. Now, the Anglo-Saxon ladies often had a string of beads around their neck. And when you get the beads out the ground, they look a bit dull. And people look at that and think, I'm not sure I'd want that round my neck. But you can get nice replicas, and these are some replica beads made by a person that I've met who makes exact copy of the Anglo-Saxon beads, and they're far more colourful. And if you hand a replica of one of the necklaces to someone and they put it on, they look down and they think, yep, that is more like something I'd be proud to wear, rather than the manky thing that looks like it has been in the ground for 1,500 years. And we get the kids to make little copies of these lovely necklaces. It's funny because you can get the small kids to make a copy, they like making it, and you can get the older students, if you want to put that on, make copies, and they're equally happy at making these things and putting these things on and adorning themselves in the way that an Anglo-Saxon would 1,500 years ago.
Okay, just want to talk about handling the object. You've seen some of them in use in the gallery. As a museum, we always want to take care of our collections. We have to preserve them for the future, so we have to handle them very carefully. But there's a few really easy tips in order that you can handle the objects that you have really safely. I think the first thing is to say, just really think about what you're doing and start with a really nice flat stable surface. Make sure that the objects are not near the edge of the table so that they can't be easily knocked off, and that's a really good starting point. Also, perhaps you don't have to handle them quite as much as you think. So just think about, if you're taking them out of a box, and or if you're going to put it in a display case, if you're putting together a small exhibition, just consider before you actually pick the object up, where are you going to take it, and plan your route first so that you don't trip over a box or a chair, or make sure that the case is open if you are moving it somewhere like that. It's just these simple things will help you protect the objects. The other thing is to look at the particular type of material, and what we ask ourselves is, do we have to wear gloves? A lot of people think in museums we're always wearing gloves. Now, you don't have to do that for every type of object. So for instance, something ceramic like this oil lamp here is absolutely fine to pick up without gloved hands. As long as you know you've just washed your hands and you've got clean hands, that's absolutely fine. The problem is greasy residue or the acid from our fingertips can really damage surfaces, in particular metal objects. So for instance, before I pick up this statuette here, I might just slip on a pair of gloves. And I know that it's not going to leave a nasty mark, it won't corrode the metal. And then I can pick that up quite safely and handle it, and that allows me to inspect it really closely and carefully, but I know I'm not actually damaging it at all. And then one of the main concerns as well when we're handling objects is that you don't want to pick it up by something that might actually be loose, because we're used to handling objects in our day-to-day life, such as a teapot or a mug, but what you wouldn't want to do is actually pick up a historic object by its handle, for instance, or by a lid, because you really don't know just how secure those objects are. So for instance, this lovely little Aribalos, which is a Greek ceramic here. As you see, I just pick that up and support it in both hands, and I wouldn't touch the handle because you just don't know how secure that is. And the same with this little snuff box here, little patch box, which is made out of enamel. Pick it up by the base. You can actually open the lid, but again, just don't hold it by its lid. Pop that back down again. And if you just follow a few of these tips, you'll be able to handle all the objects really safely.
Across the sites that the Investigate team work, we are able to tap into a variety of different artefacts. We're lucky in that we've got objects and artworks from a range of periods across history. And the students and pupils and teachers that we've worked with and the community groups have taken impetus and ideas from using the art. We're at the start now of developing a new outreach project where we're reformatting all of our creative arts and heritage loans boxes into new outreach kits that will support the learning in community groups and in schools, and for pupils of all ages from reception right through to university level.